Welcome back to the wonderful world of Chia. Recently I did a Chia computer build, and since then I've made a few changes and have had a couple recommendations from people. So if you're looking to build an all-in-one Chia plotter and farmer, then you might want to watch that build and then follow up with this video. Or just watch along with this video because, heck, you're already here, why not? Following this video will prevent you from making some of the stupid mistakes I've made and hopefully save everybody a little bit of money. And now just to be clear, I'm not doing this just so I can say that there's affiliate links for all the products down below. I'm doing this for the Chia community, okay? Hold on, let me just take this call real quick. Hello? Oh, hey, this is the luxury car shop? Lamborghini Reventon? I don't know. Do you have anything more expensive? But on a serious note, if you want to support this channel, you can buy any of the Chia build products through my Amazon affiliate links. And if you're a Chia company, you know, this is a pretty fast growing space, and I'm currently looking for channel sponsors, so hit me up. Okay, Mom, you literally called at the perfect time. I was setting up my phone alarm to make it sound like my phone rang, and then you called me. I totally lost my train of thought. What was this video about again? Alright, so I just looked up Chia build on YouTube, and then I selected the first search engine result. Let's go through this video, and I'll just review some of the things that I did wrong. Alright, so my first mistake is having my camera on my phone right here, because that just looks really dumb. I didn't even use it, really. Okay, so this isn't so much a mistake as a potential point of improvement. So for this build, I chose a Ryzen 7 8-core processor, and pretty shortly after releasing this video, there was an update on Chia that changed how much storage and memory is required to create a plot. And because of that, this same exact setup with just a 12-core processor can produce 12 plots in parallel instead of 8. And everything else will be exactly the same. So that's a potential point of upgrade. If you're following along with this, you can get the most bang for your buck by getting a 12 plus core processor. All right, so this is my next big issue. So I have this fan here, and honestly, I just literally was like, crap, I need a fan. So I went to my junk room and I grabbed the first fan I could find, and that's where this came from. And I literally was like balancing this on some cables right in front of the HBA card to connect to all the drives, because this thing gets really, really hot. So this fan is not really ideal for that. It doesn't fit there. And, you know, maybe it's something I could put on the side of the case or whatever, and that'll help with some airflow. But I think the ideal solution is to have a dedicated fan for that HBA card. So here is a potential solution to this problem. This you can put directly on the heatsink, facing that heatsink to cool it off. And this is a 3-pin, but you can just plug it into any 4-pin fan spot on the motherboard. And then in the BIOS, you can crank that up to max to get it as cool as possible. Or, you know, put it on whatever cooling settings you need. Now at this part in the video, this is not so much a mistake as just something I forgot to call out. If you have a CPU cooler and, you know, this is your first time building a computer, you will want to make sure you have thermal paste. So with the cooler that comes with the processor, it's already on the cooler, but I didn't show that side of the cooler. And, you know, someone came at me like, bro, you got to use thermal paste. Well, it had thermal paste, I just didn't show that, and I didn't need to add any on manually. But if you have a cooler and it doesn't already have thermal paste, then you'll want to get a tube of that and just use a little bit. There's all kinds of debate on how much you need to use, but I think with thermal paste, people tend to use too much, and there's a bunch of memes out there about it. So just use enough to lightly cover the surface of the processor. Next up, which I called this out in the video, but people still had to tell me I did it wrong. And I fixed this in the next video. Although this works, the fan will still run. It's not in the right spot, so you want to connect it to the CPU fan header. Next up, I wanted to call out that there's these panels here that I attached one of these solid state drives to. And those are the panels that allow you to put your solid state drives for plotting right in front of the motherboard. When I got to that point in the build, I couldn't really figure out how they were supposed to connect to the case, and the instruction manual for this specific case, this Meshify case, is absolute garbage. I love the case, but it's like impossible to actually know how to do anything unless you've done it before or have seen people do it. So you can see that here where I'm putting the drives where they're supposed to go, but they're just kind of sitting there. So that's not really an issue It just, maybe it's more clean to have them actually screwed in there. But what I ended up doing is I actually just put them in one of the hard drive trays and place them where all the other hard drives go. So if you see this here as an example, we have 4 of these hard drives right here. Oh, come on, get back in focus. There we go. So we have 4 of these hard drives. I ended up just adding 2 more trays and putting the solid state drives there. And I put a little bit of gap because I had the space, and that'll just allow for more airflow. And you can see there's also a fan right on the end there. So that fan is blowing right past the solid state drives, which helps keep them cool. I think putting them down on the bottom, like I'm showing here, is totally fine if you just make sure you have the appropriate amount of airflow. And you can do this by going into the BIOS and just upping the fan speed for all the different fans in the computer, or possibly adding a dedicated fan in there to just get extra cooling there. And I think there's a couple of extra spots you can add fans in the front just to keep as much air going through it as possible. Because I was running this with both of the side panels off of it, and the solid state drives were actually still getting very hot. So this case is pretty huge. There's probably like 20 different places you can put fans. Now the next issue is the way I put these hard drives into these trays. It's not a huge issue. I mean, it's working fine, but just for everybody's knowledge, there's these little rubber pads on the bottom that I said, hey, make sure you use these rubber pads, but I didn't put them all the way through. They're basically like 2 levels. So like one side is on the top of the tray, and then one side is on the bottom of the tray. So you actually poke it through, and that'll help absorb vibrations by patting both ends of the screw holes. So that's just a minor thing, but thank you for those who pointed that out. Now, as for mistakes with the hard drives, I think I did pretty good. These are 18 terabyte drives, and I think high capacity is the best way to go. However, one thing I may have done differently is to just buy the drives straight and not shuck them from an enclosure. If you get the right enclosure, you can get a pretty good enterprise drive. The ones I got are just white label, I think 5400 RPM drives. So they're on the slower end, which doesn't really matter. However, it does affect resale value, in addition to voiding the warranty when you take it out of the enclosure. And the hard drives being obviously the most expensive part of any of these builds, it's probably the thing you want to keep the warranty on the most. That's ultimately a personal decision, and I don't necessarily think this is a mistake. It's just something that, I'm starting to wonder if I made the best choice. The 18 terabyte drives from Seagate are running around $400, which is definitely on the high end. That's $20 per terabyte. But by shucking them, I didn't save a ton of money, and I spent a ton of time figuring out how to do it, and then had a bunch of trash I had to deal with after. But either way, I think it's totally fine. Oh, that's pretty cozy. Overall, I think the build has turned out pretty well. I think there is a price you pay to have this all-in-one convenient solution, but you don't need a dedicated farmer and a dedicated plotter, or having fans that sound like jet engines. Like, this is super quiet. Yeah, I definitely feel super unprofessional with my legs up here like this. Here, let's fix it. There we go, that's much better. And yeah, I set up plotting on this. I initially had a couple of issues. I think one of the cables on the HBA card was broken. I don't know why. I swapped it out for a different one, and it worked fine. And one of the M.2 to U.2 converters was broken as well. So I don't know if I just got unlucky or what, but I replaced both of those, and I started plotting, and I haven't touched it since. It's been plotting for like a week straight. It's doing so well that I'm hesitant to even upgrade to the latest version of Chia for the faster plotting, just because I don't want to have to touch it. I don't want to have to deal with it, but we'll see. Maybe I'll do that. Everybody has their own opinion and their own approach. So, I've gotten a lot of different comments, whether it's saying, oh, you should have a dedicated plotter and a dedicated farmer, or you need to use a 730 XD, and like a million other different ways of doing it. And ultimately, here's what I have to say about that. I'm just going to start and improve as I go, because it's so easy to just have paralysis by analysis and think you have to build like this perfect machine and have all the experience and skill of like a server administrator who's been doing this for 10 years. The reality is, I have made more plots than a lot of other people because I'm actually plotting and not just researching what parts to buy. So that is every mistake I think I made in this build. I'm sure there's all kinds of mistakes, especially being a YouTube video. Everyone has to call it everything, like, oh, you didn't fix your hair right, and oh, your button is off, and you're 2 pounds too fat. But if you do have some suggestions for future builds, I will welcome them in the comments, because I do want to do more builds in the future. And with that, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next video coming out tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Every day, baby. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.